So welcome to everyone that's joined us tonight. I'm Annie Everall from Aloud UK, and I've got my colleagues, my co-director Naomi Cooper, who's with us tonight, and our wonderful Bev Humphrey, who makes sure Zoom behaves itself and looks after the techie side for us. So if they can give a wave. I'd also like to welcome Frithha Lindquist and the Usborne team who are here tonight. And I'd particularly like to welcome Jenny's family and friends who've been able to join us tonight. So thanks for coming along, and it's nice to have you here. Just to let you know that we have set up an online order with the wonderful Spalding books. So you can order a copy of The Incredible Record Smashers for £7.50, including postage and packing. And we will sort out signed book plates with Jenny. So we'll pop the order line in the chat box, the link, so that you know how to order if you would like to. And if you haven't yet had the chance to read it, I'm absolutely convinced that you will want to buy it because it's fantastic. So the shape of tonight, as I say, tonight we're celebrating the launch of Jenny's wonderful new book, The Incredible Record Smashers, which publishes on the 29th of April. And that is her second novel, following on from her incredible debut novel, The Super Miraculous Journey of Freddie Yates last year. We're also acknowledging tonight the amazing work that Empathy Lab are doing and celebrating the forthcoming Empathy Day and the impact that that will make again this year. I'm really delighted to joined by author Jenny Pearson and Empathy Lab founder, my friend Miranda McKearney. So I'm going to introduce Jenny and Miranda to you, and then Jenny and Miranda are going to have a conversation about empathy and how Jenny's books support empathy. As usual, if you've got any questions or comments, just pop them in the chat box and we'll look at those when we come to the Q&A section of our evening. So can I ask you now then to all switch your mics and cameras off, and if you do forget, Bev will do it for you. So yeah, if you could switch your mics and cameras off. And I'll now introduce Miranda and Jenny. Well, for those of you who don't know Miranda, for me, it's always a pleasure to introduce her. And anyone who does know her will know just what a tour de force she is. She's a social justice entrepreneur, and she spent the last 35 years turning kitchen table ideas into nationwide campaigns, culminating in founding the Reading Agency, I think back in 2002. And now look where the Reading Agency is and where it fits within the bigger picture of the children's book world. She also spearheaded the development of the Summer Reading Challenge, which now reaches 800,000 children every year. My favourite memory of Miranda is some years ago, we were all at an event for the British book industry at Buckingham Palace with the Queen and members of the royal family. I was with Miranda, we were chatting with a few other people when Prince Philip stopped to talk to our group. Without hesitating, Miranda said, what are you currently reading? And do you read to your grandchildren? He was reading 1666, and yes, he did read to his grandchildren, but she's the only person I know that could have asked something like that and got away with it. So that's Miranda. When she said that she was retiring from the Reading Agency to go trekking, I remember Sarah Mears and I in fits of laughter, convinced that although she would go trekking, there was no way on earth she was going to retire, because she'd get one of her ideas and half the world would soon find themselves involved in helping her deliver it. And how prophetic were we? Because within a very short space of time, as a result of becoming fascinated by the building body of research showing that reading builds empathy, she came up with the idea of the empathy movement, which led to the founding of Empathy Lab with fellow directors Craig Hill, Ruth Harrison, Caroline Scott, and Sarah Mears, which gave me even more of a sense of laughter, because even Sarah Mears can't say no to Miranda. In fact, I don't think anybody can. So for those of you who don't know it, Empathy Lab is passionate about the power of stories to build empathy, and the power of empathy to make the world a better place. And it has become an incredibly powerful force for good. In 2017, she developed Empathy Day, and that is a programme of empathy literature, social action for young people. Empathy Day aims to inspire young people to get involved and to join the empathy movement. And Miranda's managed to get a wide range of organisations joining forces to promote that message about stories building empathy. In 2021, Empathy Day is going to be on the 10th of June with a new theme calling for children and young people across the country to walk in someone else's shoes. Central to it will be a call to families to take their own empathy walk and to consider their neighbourhoods in a new light and reflect on actions they can take to make a positive impact within their community. As always, there's going to be a fantastic programme of events with a lot of our authors getting involved, including Jenny. It's in its 5th year now, and the Empathy Day movement continues to grow. In 2020, Empathy Day was fuelled by 120 library services, 1,165 schools, and it reached over 360,000 young people. That's pretty powerful in a period of about 5 years. So that's Miranda for you. It's also my real pleasure to introduce Jenny Pearson to you. Jenny was originally from Salisbury, but she's now based in Durham. She's a mum of 2, and we saw her 2 on screen earlier tonight. And she's also a primary school teacher, a job which she loves. And I think her humour in her books is reflected by the comment that she made when she said it's a job she loves, but she willingly admits to stealing from the children she has taught, or as she puts it, not their lunch monies, because that's frowned upon at school, but their characters. If you're writing for children, it helps to know what they like, but also what they're like. And I think she reflects that brilliantly in her books. Her debut novel, The Super Miraculous Journey of Freddie Yates, was bought in an 8th and since its publication, it's taken the children's book world by storm. It was chosen for the Waterstones Book of the Month, and it was shortlisted for the Costa Book Prize. It's also been included on the 2021 Read for Empathy collection. And just to give you a taste of what Freddie Yates is about, Freddie, he's a boy who loves facts. He thinks you can rely on facts. They don't let you down. But he's having to face one big fact. When he persuaded his 2 best friends to help him search for the dad he's never met, unfortunately, the search isn't going to plan. And he never expected to set off a chain of miraculous events, which have ended up with him being on the run and without having packed enough pants. For me, it's a wonderful story of 3 boys on a journey of a lifetime, discovering that sometimes what you're looking for is actually closer to home than you realise. And there's a quote from a boy, a young boy, that says, "I loved this exciting book and I found it difficult to put down. The book's fantastic. I liked everything from cover to cover. It was exciting and it's full of lots of funny characters." So her second book, The Incredible Record Smashers, again, it is a wonderfully warm book, and it's the story of Lucy, who's a fixer. She can usually manage to fix every kind of broken thing, except she can't seem to find the thing that will fix her mum's sadness brought on by depression and make her smile again. until she hatches this incredible plan to meet this star singer, Paul Castellani, because she finds a photograph of her mum with Paul Castellani, and it's got "You Are My Happiness" written on it. And she thinks if she can get Paul to come and have tea with her mum, that will be the thing that will fix her mum's happiness. Paul's currently the host of a TV show called Record Smashers. So Lucy decides, aided and abetted by her new best friend Sandesh, she decides she's going to go on TV for the auditions and smash a record, and then she'll get to meet Paul. But what record is she going to smash? And it turns out not to be quite as easy as she thought it was going to be. Again, it's already attracting rave reviews from people like Frank Cottrell Boyce and in the press. But there were a couple of quotes that I really liked. This is from an adult who says, "The Incredible Record Smashers is an absolute winner. It's a wonderfully heartwarming, giggle-inducing, action-packed adventure told in an incredibly honest and authentic voice that makes it such a touching and exceptional story." But Weems, age 10, says, "I really enjoyed Jenny Pearson's book, the first book, The Super Miraculous Journey of Freddie Yates. So I couldn't wait to read this one, especially as it was an early copy. It's a great, fun read with lots of laugh out loud moments, all about friendship and family. I loved it, and I can't wait to read the next." I know one person in this audience tonight who started reading it late in the evening and then had to sit up to the wee small hours to finish it. I personally just loved it. I love both of your books, Jenny. I think Jenny's got this knack of writing in a way that grabs the heart of the reader from page one and just doesn't let go. The Incredible Record Smashers had me laughing my socks off at one moment and then in tears the other. And I think that's the key to the success of Jenny's books. She tackles some really difficult subjects, but she does it with humour and empathy. She makes you fall in love with her characters, even the villains, actually. And she's one of those authors that makes you want to know what happens to her characters beyond the end of the story, because you actually don't want, to leave them. And it's those qualities that caught Empathy Lab's attention and led to the Super Miraculous Journey of Freddie Yates being chosen as one of the 2021 Read for Empathy collection, which is appropriate at this point to hand over to Miranda to have the conversation about empathy.
Thank you so much, Annie. And it's really lovely to be here. And with Jenny, huge fan. So, Jenny, there's this really cool scientific research which shows that when us readers identify with you writers' characters, it actually expands our real life understanding of other people. So my burning question is, how do you do it? How do you go about creating the characters that make us readers empathize and understand people in real life? And Bally Rye, when I asked him about it, said he thinks about what's in their fridge. And I wonder how you create your characters.
Gosh, I think I'm really lucky because all my characters are based, like all the children are based on parts of kids that I've taught over the years. I take bits and kind of smush them together and get new characters. And I'm really lucky. I've taught so many wonderful kids. And I think I write good kid characters because I've taught so many good kids. And then maybe it's because I don't have the best imagination, but all the characters are based on people I know. And I know lots of authors say, no, I make them up, but mine really are. Like, you could end up in my book, like the Grams in Freddie Yates, that's based on both my grandmothers. And they're both sort of like tough love, and I hope comes across. And actually a lot of it I do still from real life. Actually, my the bit about Grams going off to pay strip Monopoly, I think was happening. My dad used to tease my nan Iris when she used to go and see her boyfriend Norman, so I think I stole that from him. In Record Smashers, I think Lucy, again, I've taught so many Lucys. I feel like I see a lot of myself in Lucy, especially the bit where she kind of grabs hold of the wrong idea or something and just keeps going at it, even if it's not the right path. And where she kind of takes a little while to realize that she's in the wrong, like it slowly dawns on her, and it's a really painful realization that she's got to go and apologize. Do you know what? It's funny you should say about the fridge being an inspiration, because one of the characters that I'm getting lots of lovely feedback from in Record Smashers is Auntie Sheila. And I so loved writing that character. And I normally talk about her quite freely, but I'm very conscious that my mum is on this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So when it comes to the fridge, like, so Auntie Sheila was very much based on my mum. If you opened my mum's fridge, you would look at it and go, oh, there's a woman who likes a squeaky clean colon, because she has, like, she makes her own kefir, she makes her own aloe vera juice. And I'll tell you what, from personal experience of not knowing what they were, they clean you out. And Auntie Sheila, she's always making like sieving stuff, which is just completely my mum. And there was there's a bit in Record Smashers where it sort of and we had to sort of tone it down a bit, because I'd written this before it had happened, and it came from the back of, and this is, Auntie Sheila's a bit of a catastrophizer. She's got a well-stocked larder, as does my mother. And so when I was around the house with my sister, and it was at the time of bird flu, and my sister opened a cupboard and found a gas mask with proper nozzles and things. And we were like, what is this for? And Caroline realised, she was like, Mum, have you got this because you're worried about bird flu? And we laughed for a very long time. And then we stopped laughing and realised that she'd only bought one. And if she was worried about it, where were ours? And so I kind of based Auntie Sheila on Mum, who also managed to burn every single one in the family's backsides by leaving bleach on the toilet seat. She's that kind of woman. So I took a lot from her, and I've taken a lot from my grandparents. In my next book, it's about Grandpa Frank, and that's based quite a lot on my dad and his relationship with his dad, because we're, again, really creative in this family. They're both called David Brown, and in the next book it's Grandpa, they're all called Frank Davenport. So so I basically just see, and I think I'm really lucky, I'm surrounded by loads of wonderful, colourful characters that I can just pick up from. So yeah, the fridge is a good idea though. I like that from Barley Ray, to look at that. My mum's
so they're sort of compilations of people around you, but do you have any special techniques where you do you make notes when you're starting, or do a drawing, or how do you actually start creating a character?
I think it's all in my head. Like, I can just imagine these characters, and they come pretty fully formed. I just take little bits and quirks of people. How can you not find the people around you inspiring and that you want to meet, you know? And I've met so many children. That is so many little bundles of possibility and potential and different quirky characters. You know, there's so much to draw from. And what was really nice is when I was teaching year 6, when Freddie Yates came out, and after it came out, lots of the kids were like, boys and girls were like, is that me? Was that me? Was that character based on me? Was that based on that? So I'm like, do you know what? It was, not specifically, but there are vibes and pieces that I pull from them. So yeah, I just, there's so much, you know, there are so many interesting people out there that I'm surrounded with. You can't help but absorb some of it. And I'm, you know, I've got really, like, my dad's hilarious, my sister's funny, you know, they're just strong characters that are just there, ripe to steal. Basically.
Do you find, so some writers describe characters as sort of having a life of their own, and you kind of think you're taking them on a particular story journey, and then you suddenly find they're kind of, actually they've taken over. Does that happen to you, or are you in total control the whole time, or how does it work?
As much as I'm ever in control of anything, I think I'm in control of it. I don't know. Do they ever go? Do they ever? I suppose sometimes I have an idea where the story is going to go, and then I think, oh, actually they've done that. So I suppose, but that is me deciding that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know what you're saying. I'm not sure if I'm one of those that, like, if I'm completely embodying that person, or if I'm just enjoying myself typing away.
I love it. I love hearing how you do it. It's so cool. And in your characters, your boys you have particularly lovely boy characters, I think. They're kind and they're funny, and they have really deep friendships. And in Record Smashers, there's this gorgeous Sandesh who's such a good friend, isn't he? And he says all the time, he says, I understand. And I just think that's just, if every boy could grow up into a man able to say, I understand and sorry, we'd have a great world. But is that something you get much comment on your boy character?
I do. And I'm always surprised, because I think that what I see in the classroom is I see lovely boys. I see lovely boys and lovely girls. They all fall out with each other at some point, but ultimately they are kind, they are caring, and I can think of some of them now who I don't know where it comes from that we can't have lovely boys. And like, the men that I know are lovely men. It sort of saddens me in a bit, because you can't have these. It's a surprise that these lovely boy characters.
Yes,
my boys are lovely, and I'm sure everybody at home who's got boys know that they're lovely. And I think lots of the boys that I teach are much nicer than I was when I was. So it does get comments. It does. And they do, and do you know what? Boys do have deep relationships with each other. They do. They just don't articulate them in the same way. They worry about each other. The number of times a boy will hang behind at the end of a lesson to tell me that something's happened, or they're worried about this person or that person. They might have a more physical side, like during a football thing, but the girls get involved as well in that kind of scrapping. Not that I'm saying our school's like that. We've got a very well disciplined school. Our children are lovely. But yeah, I just think that maybe we don't, because we don't expect them to be, we're not allowing them to be. I don't know, that they have to, like, a girl will come up and say, Miss, I'm worried about her. Maybe the boys need to do it like a little bit more quietly. Mind you, having said that, I think my class are quite confident to come and tell me what they want when they want. But yeah, it is something that has been commented on. But these are the children. I'm writing children that I know. So this is how I see children. And I've seen a lot.
And Annie talked about how warm-hearted your books are, and I think that's part of the kind of gorgeousness of them. These warm-hearted children are just gorgeous.
I know, and this is why I love teaching, because that is what it's like. I'm not saying that they are perfect. Like, sometimes I could, I'm stood in the classroom and think I may as well be talking to myself in a field, Generally, that's very rarely. They're generally attentive and lovely and wonderful, but that kids are, aren't they? They are. And I just want that to come across in books. And even if the kid is having a hard time or is damaged by something, there's still good kids. I don't think I've ever come across a kid that I haven't managed to like.
Oh, that's so lovely. And you're year 4 at the moment, are you?
Yeah, I'm year 4 this year, and I'm loving them.
That's so nice. Yeah. So, one of the things sort of following on from that, in our empathy lab work, teachers talk the whole time about how difficult it is for some children to express their emotions, name their emotions, therefore very difficult to understand anybody else's emotions, and how troubling that is for them. And your books very beautifully open up possibilities of conversations around emotions and characters' feelings. And we chose Freddie Yates to be in the Empathy Lab collection partly because of that. And I was interested in your experience of both writing about emotions, but also how that sort of ties in with your experience in the classroom.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we always think we've got the answers as adults. Like when you said about naming emotions, like, you know, when you have a bad, I don't always know what I'm feeling. Like kids don't. We don't have and it's really interesting because on Twitter today, somebody had put something out about how we're languishing. And they've given it a word, and everybody's suddenly gone, that is how I'm feeling. I'm languishing at the moment. You know, I'm not mentally thriving. And that's what we've got to try and do with kids, because everybody suddenly felt better. They saw this tweet about describing how we're all feeling at the moment. We're not depressed. We're not thriving. We're somewhere in the middle. We're languishing in this lockdown world. And all these people were suddenly like, that's me, that's me. And the relief at just knowing that other people are feeling like that. So it's not just for kids, like to give them the vocabulary. And that's what we try and do. And that's so at our school, we have things like restorative justice. We have zones of regulation to give these kids the vocabulary and just maybe the pause to stop and think, have a think about how you're feeling. And I suppose with the books, I never set out to tackle these like deeper themes. I wanted to write funny books for kids. But then I think when you are writing kids, if you're writing honestly about them, and I have, you know, some kids have hard lives, have hard little lives, and the things that they go through are tougher than anything I've been through. And you want to be able to, you know, it would be a disservice not to include those things in the books. And I feel with humour, you can approach, it's almost like you gain some trust. If you can make a child laugh, you can gain their trust with that emotion. So they've trusted me with making them laugh, and I'm kind of there. So then I can somehow, it's like a comfort blanket to explore harder things, like, and knowing that, you know, if we're talking about grief, if we're talking about depression, I will then follow it up with something funny, a bit like the hanky episode in Yates. So I think it does. I hope it can open up conversations about those bigger things. And I've had, actually, it's been lovely. I have had emails saying, you know, we couldn't talk to our kid about the death of their grandparent until we read this book, and we were able to discuss different things like what a death certificate is. And I think sometimes, you know, by showing it with the humour, that there's happiness, you know, with hard times, there's happiness and joy to be found still when things are difficult. So I'm hoping, you know, I'm hoping that it will allow for those conversations to happen.
And it's really interesting. Did you sort of deliberately set out to get that blend? Because I think you have a kind of remarkable blend of, there's some really quite difficult things happening to the children in your books, aren't there? And both, actually, the main characters have very, very small families. They're not, it sounds like you've got a big family, lots of them here. But in your books, they're often very, very small. And there's death and mental health and all of that combined with this hilarious escapades. Just tell us more about how and why you do that.
Maybe the small families. I think because I think we had times, because my parents got divorced, we had different pockets of staying with different people. So it felt like, you know, we were being looked after by dad or by mum. So maybe that you have a more intense relationship with that person when you're living with them, maybe. So that might be where it comes from. Did I set out to write about those things?
Well, it's a particular alchemy, that mix.
I think that probably like the hard, I think, you know, every family, I think, you know, you're very lucky if you haven't been touched by a difficult time, whether it's a grief, a bereavement, or mental health issues. I think there's a lot that we all experience, especially by the time we get to our age. So my family have a particular way of dealing with it, which is using humour. Like, it is that if you can't, you know, if you laugh or cry, and it is important to cry, it is, but it's also important to be able to pick yourself up again afterwards to experience those emotions. And I think what I hope the books do is I think people say that they laugh at them and they cry in them. So I think those are both, to feel sad and to feel happy, are important emotions. What I think isn't an emotion that we should feel, or how we should feel, is loneliness. And I think if we're not talking about what's going on, and if we're kids and we're not talking to our children about things like mental health and grief and bereavement, and they're hard to talk about sometimes, you know, a lot of the time we get it wrong. Even as adults, we say the wrong thing. You know, you hear someone's died and you panic and say the wrong thing because we're not very trained at it. But yeah, I hope that it will kind of, I've lost my thought. Where was I going with this?
But I think it is that I was just so delighted to see Freddie Yates do so well with that particular combination, which is, you know, it's very unusual. I just thought it was brilliant, and it must have been so exciting to see it get the recognition it's had.
It was really surprising. Like, I didn't, like, you just don't expect this, do you? Like, the writing thing is still quite new. Yeah, surprising. But I suppose, yeah, I just write how I experience life, I suppose, and hopefully that comes across on the page.
Yeah, really does. And that's a very good moment to ask you to read to us off some of those pages.
Right. Well, because I realised I should have done this earlier. This is how slick I am. Are we going to go for...
The choice is yours. What would you like us to hear?
I'll tell you what, I'll read a bit of Record Smashers because people won't have heard that one. I'm going to take a big sip of my drink because I'm really...
we are launching Record Smashers, so that seems like a good idea.
I'll keep my publicist happy, Fritha, as well. So I'll read the bit where Lucy is going to try. She's got in her head that she's got to break a world record, and her and Sandesh are going to try. She's practicing. Sometimes I think, did I write this one? But somebody has got this world record, so it's not come out of any, nowhere. It's 100 meters hurdles whilst wearing flippers and a snorkel, and they're practicing over some of Auntie Sheila's stash boxes from her shed of sardines and things in case Armageddon happens. And
such a naughty look to your face as you say it.
And I think there's she's got some inflatable flamingos who think so as well. I've not read this before, this section, so we'll see how this goes. We'll see how well my writing scans as I read. Okay. Sandesh stood at the finish line and gave his starting orders, which was a countdown from 4. I just let him get on with it this time. 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And I was off. Turns out, running in flippers requires quite a bit of adaptation to your regular running technique. Over the course of 20 metres, I experimented with a few different styles. I began with exceptionally high knees, but that got a bit tiring, so I switched to swinging my legs in a sideways semicircles, but I wasn't getting anywhere fast like that. I was going to try longer strides, but by then I'd reached the crate of sardines on my first jump. At the last minute, I bottled actually leaping over it and decided to leapfrog it instead. I did not think I was going to achieve a clean landing, but I did. And I was up and slapping my feet across the tarmac once more. It took Sandesh quite some time to leap into action and help me out. I'd like to think he was shocked into I've just jumped over a page. Sorry. Let's go. And I was up and slapping my feet across the tarmac once more. At the Ox Tongues, I went for a commando-style roll over the top, which allowed me to maintain my rhythm. Things seemed to be going really rather well. I was feeling surprisingly confident and the end was in sight. I only had a few more meters to go before the flamingos. Because of all the success I was having, I thought I might as well attempt a proper hurdle and finish up in style like a top-class record smasher. My first leg cleared the flamingos, but the flipper of my trailing leg caught the edge, flipped the box over, and, before I knew it, my world went luminous pink, and I was upside down with my head in a box of tropical poultry, with my own webbed feet bicycling madly above me. It took Sandesh quite some time to leap into action and help me out. I'd like to think he was shocked into inactivity rather than enjoying the moment. I pulled my mask up off my face. How did I do? He scratched his head and looked at me like I'd fallen out of a tree. Well, I was doing okay, wasn't I? I mean, except for the end, but I can work on that. Was I fast? It felt fast. Maybe not under 4 seconds, but it was my first go at it. With a bit of practice, it might be doable, don't you think? Sandesh had a very troubled look on his face and said, I said, don't just stand there looking troubled with your troubled looking face. Tell me, what was my time? About 20 seconds. That's not far off the 18 point whatever it was. I definitely wasted time at the end. That was 20 seconds for the 20 meters, not the 100 meters. I laughed at him when he said that. No way did I take that long. I positively hurtled over those hurdles. I grinned and nudged him with my shoulder. Sandesh, what was my time really? I know you're teasing me. Sandesh's face changed from troubled looking to uncomfortable looking. I can't be 100% accurate because I was only counting in elephants, but yeah, it was 22 elephants before you attacked the box of flamingos. Are you sure? How fast were your elephants? Did you say them really quick like this? 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephants? Or the way you were supposed to, like this? 1 elephant, 2 elephants. I counted in the correct elephant speed, Lucy. Dratballs. That was terribly disappointing. I flopped back down into the box of flamingos. I'm staying in here with my new luminous pals and I'm never coming out. That is an unacceptable attitude, Lucy. He pulled me back out. Come on, we need to think of something else. There are only 7 more days before they close applications. There we go. Well, I flipped out 2 pages.
But it was very splendid in the end. Now, listen, I've got a question in chat from Gavin and Charlotte, and they want to know if you learned anything from your writing process by writing Freddie Yates, and if you had to change your approach in Record Smashers.
Did I learn? Well, the thing is, when Freddie Yates went out to publishers, I'd written half of Record Smashers because I was worried that if it didn't sell, I wanted to have a backup book, so so I didn't feel. So I'd written half of it. So I have learned so much from my editor though. Like, Rebecca Hill is amazing. Like, I've learned what to do at the end of chapters, how to bring back to the narrative, like the emotion. I have learned a lot about that. But my style of writing generally is think about it for ages and then sit down and just try and throw it at the key, like just get it out. So once I have an idea, it is kind of intense and I can't be very brilliant to live with as I write. And if you forget to shower. No, I'm not that bad. It did make me, having had the first book out, the second book out is quite a terrifying thing because people did like the first. Yes. And then you think, oh, are they going to like the second one? And then I think, oh, just stop worrying about that. You're lucky to be published at all. So yeah. But
thanks. And there's another couple of things in chat from Cassie and Sarah who just loved that reading. You have a very particular way of reading it. It's very, very lovely.
That particular way of it up.
So on Empathy Day, well, in the run-up to Empathy Day, you're one of the authors that have given us the most amazing thing of an empathy short story. And we introduced empathy shorts last year because everybody was really worried about would children have any access to stories, and we're not great on extracts. We want children to, we think that it's going to be stronger for empathy work if children have whole stories. So we've carried on this year, and yours, I just adore your empathy short. It will be revealed on May the 11th. And it has a very particular angle to it on about how we say what we really want to say and find so difficult. So I wondered if you might just whet our appetites with a tiny little sort of sneak preview so that everybody rushes to read it on May the 11th.
Okay, I'm so pleased you liked it. It's quite. I'm not good at writing short things, so
you are. You're really good.
So that wasn't selling it, was it? Can you tell me what there? Oh, it's not very good. No, it's wonderful. Do read it. So it is actually, do you know what? It took me a long time to think about what to do, and I wondered if I should do it Freddie Yates based, but it kind of is in the theme. So it is about grief again, and it actually came from conversation in the classroom this year. So we did have a child suffer bereavement, and it was listening to conversations that children have around, because they want to help, and it's like we all do when we have a friend who has lost somebody and you want to say the right things, sometimes the wrong things just pour out of your mouth. And I think maybe this is me, you know, making amends for all the times that I get it wrong, and like you really want to help and you really want to say, I understand how you feel. When you don't, what you want to say is like, I'm here for you. And sometimes it comes out wrong, and it's you end up saying things which is, and this will come on to my empathy resolution later on, it's where you almost feel like you're topping somebody's experience, somebody who's having an experience, and you say, oh, when this happened to me, or when my thing, and you're trying to show empathy, but it to the person who's hearing those words, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like something else. So and we don't teach children how to talk to somebody. You know, we don't have these conversations until something happens. We don't teach them how we should approach somebody who has suffered a bereavement. You know, and even, you know, when I wrote Freddie Yates, after my stepdad had died, and it was born from conversations with my own children about, you know, what happens to granddad. And we don't know, but what we do know is that we can still love somebody even though they're not here. So that's what I wanted to get across. And I think in this book, this short as well, I wanted to show that the child recognized the other child, the need to be told that he was loved. So yes, that's and it's some of those, it was from a conversation that I was speaking to children and what they came back with, and you think, oh, I can see why you're saying that, but it's not quite what you would say. And you know, it's, you know, we all get it wrong, don't we, because we're not very good at talking about it or saying.
Well, it's a beautifully crafted short, empathy short, and people are asking on chat where they can get hold of them, which is on the Empathy Lab website. Bev has just put in chat the address. That's got the ones from last year, and on May the 11th, I hope everybody will be flocking there when we unveil it, which we will unveil at the same time as our family pack, which answers somebody else's question in chat. I'm being the chat custodian. I've only just learned how chat works, really. But so, and they have asked. Are they? So there's a family activity pack which will be launched on the same day as the shorts on Empathy Lab's website. So Jenny, I'm conscious of time. I'm going to ask you to share your empathy resolution, and then I'm going to be sure to pass on these questions in chat so that we are asking those before we finish. So one of the big things on Empathy Day, because there's no point learning about empathy and reading and building it through reading if you're not actually going to do anything about it. So we're going to end the day with two secret authors leading a thing on empathy resolutions, and we're asking everybody to make one, and then later in the year we'll kind of check in as how's everybody getting on with resolution. So I wondered what yours was.
So I think everyone will be pleased to hear this, because it will be to be less talking and more listening and active listening. So I've looked into, I think, when you're listening to somebody, and I'm guilty of this sometimes, if a kid comes up to a problem in between lessons or at break time, is to stop and to take time and to actually listen and engage with what's being said. And again, like I said before, like if someone's got a problem, listening to their problem, not trying to say, oh, when that happened to me, I did, like, not topping them. So and you know, not ask, to really listen to where the problem is, and not be like asking unrelated minor questions to try and focus. So yeah, mine will be active listening, because I think you can't walk in someone else's shoes if you haven't listened to them properly.
Oh, that's gorgeous. I hope we've recorded that, and then we oh, so we'll end with the other questions in chat, which so there's people asking how you sort of combining teaching and writing, and would you describe yourself now as a teacher or an author? And then there's another one which says both your books have been published during the pandemic, and yet as a new writer you should have been in schools and libraries and festivals meeting and making new readers. Has that been particularly challenging?
So let's go with the teacher author thing first, because I had to answer that in the census, and I was trying to work out how many hours I work on each one more.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, like, I love, how do I balance it? I'm really lucky because I work with the most, because I have a job share with the most phenomenal year 4 crew. Like Emily Pringle, she plans the maths, so that's just beautifully done. She's a genius when it comes to that. My job share, Chloe Black, by the time because I'm working Thursdays and Fridays this week, it's almost like the pressure is off. Like, because by the time I get in there, they know everything. She's done it all. You go in, she's taught them brilliantly. So that helps. No, I love it, and I don't think I could write the books I write if I wasn't in the classroom seeing kids and meeting kids and listening to them and engaging with them. It is like I skip to work. I also realise that only working part-time and on Thursday to Friday, you have to be the person that turns up and is cheerful. You can't be a part-timer and win out everything, because everyone else has it much harder. So I will always do both, I think. I will, especially when I'm working with the I'm working with. If they made me do more work, then maybe I wouldn't. I do pull my weight. I do. I plan the English beautifully.
Oh, I bet you do. And somebody's saying, do you do events in schools?
I've done loads of virtual events. I've seen some things actually when we were in people's homes. It has. Do you know what? It was a shame coming out in a pandemic, and it was lovely to be Waterstone's Book of the Month, and then everyone's like, oh, but the bookshop's shut. But I refuse to feel anything but positive about how my writing career has gone so far. I've got the best team at Usborne. My agent is amazing. They've made it, even though they've just looked after me so well. And I haven't met many authors, but my agent is a fantastic. I don't need any more. So I'm sure it will be lovely to go out more at some point, and I will try not to fangirl them all, because when you see people on social media you get a bit oh, look at what they've done that. So yes, has it been challenging? No, because you don't really, when you're doing virtual events like tonight, you can just rock up and just put a little dry shampoo in your hair, can't you? It's you can do more. So it's all been good. I don't know any different. I've had the best time, to be honest.
Really? Oh, that's so good. I think you seem like a person who would have the best time in almost any circumstances.
Try.
Oh, Jenny, so our time is up, really. I promised Annie we'd stick to sort of roughly 40 minutes, and we have. And so it's for me to say thank you for being such an amazing writer. I think it's just wonderful new talent bursts onto the scene, and I'm going to hand back to Annie.
Brilliant. Thanks, Miranda. As you said, we're coming to the end of what's been a great evening. Just a reminder that you can order a signed book-plated copy of Jenny's book, and I did put the link in the chat box for you. Before I just bring things to a close, just to let you know that we have another event on Thursday evening with 2 new debut authors from Penguin Random, Jen Carney, who's going to be talking about her book, The Accidental Diary of Berg, and Jen is here. So, and Katie Kirby for her new book, The Extremely Embarrassing Life of Lottie Brooks. So hopefully those of you can join us on Thursday as well. I always have to say, if you don't want us to keep your details on file so that we can let you know about future events, please email me and I will remove you from our list. And also to remind you to go to our website, the Authors Aloud UK website, and sign up to our newsletter so you'll know what's going on. Before I say a few thank yous, I think Miranda's just going to do a last plug for Empathy Day on the 10th of June. So over to you, Miranda, and then I'll just wind up.
It's just a really quick rallying cry, really, because my goodness, if ever the world needed more empathy, it is right now. And Empathy Day is kind of lightning rod for how we're going to do that. And please, can I enlist you all in joining in with Empathy Day and the theme of walking in somebody else's shoes. And so there's loads of resources for schools to join in. There's a family activity pack. We want everybody to be doing an empathy walk. Jenny, I hope you might do one with your family. And we want everybody to make empathy resolutions. So please join the empathy movement.
I love the idea of the empathy resolutions, Miranda. So I'll definitely be doing one of those. So sadly, that kind of brings me to the end of the evening. So I just want to say a few thanks to Usborne and Frither for asking us to host this launch and this fab event tonight. It's been great. For Naomi and Bev for making sure Zoom did behave itself tonight. But thank you especially to all of you for coming along and joining us tonight, and also just for supporting Authors Aloud UK by booking our authors and coming to our events. But finally, a special huge thanks to Jenny and Miranda for such a great evening and for 2 awesome books. As I said, this is a celebration of these amazing books. So can you switch on your mics and your cameras and grab your mugs of tea and coffee or your glasses of something fizzy or beer or whatever, whatever's your fancy. Can you raise those glasses and join me in saying congratulations, Jenny. We wish you every success with the new book. We're absolutely sure.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jen.
We ask you all to smile because Bev is going to do some screenshots.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. Congratulations, Jenny.
Well done, Jenny.
Well done, Jenny. Oh, thank you. Too late, guys. I'd already taken them.
It's Bev for you. So anyway, cheers. Hope you've enjoyed tonight.
Cheers, Jenny.
See you again at our next event. Please go away and tweet if you've enjoyed yourself, and stay safe and keep well. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
If